The second aspect covered in the Consumer Diversity chapter is gender and sexual orientation. And specifically within the gender differences, research suggests that women are more deliberate and thorough in their research, where men prefer simpler messages driven by themes, and they also employ simple heuristics or simple mental shortcuts. Other roles that are typically assigned to men tend to be more agentic, which means mastery, assertive, in control of one's domain, being able to master the environment in which they are embedded. Sex roles associated with traditional female roles include those of communal roles, which simply refers to sharing, looking out for others' interests, and so forth. When we talk about gender and sexual orientation, we're referring to the specific traits or characteristics of the particular person. Someone who's described as having masculine traits, who could be a man or could be a woman. Conversely, feminine traits, looking at those who may be more of a caretaker role, or someone who likes to care for the family and make sure or look after everyone's well-being, and in addition to being associated with perhaps duties around the household. These types of roles were created by culture. So with that, that's why they fall into the external influences domain. Androgynous means having characteristics of both, masculine and feminine. And with that, so if we look at actual gender, in addition to someone's sexual orientation, it's important because if you were working in marketing communications and you were targeting someone who, let's just say, was a woman, but she was a professional woman who worked many long hours, and she was not involved in domestic duties. It was in fact her husband who was the stay-at-home dad, and you targeted her with a message that positioned her in a role of the domestic caretaker, then it certainly would not be a very good fit. So just simply looking at men like these types of messages and women like these types of messages is certainly likely to hit the mark or miss the mark in many cases, depending upon the specific traits and how that person actually sees themselves and how they operate within society. So as far as this particular implication, this next slide certainly speaks to that, as far as really understanding your market and making sure that that message is tailored to that. And then there are some examples of looking at various organizations who have done that and who have taken that identification combined with the specific gender and targeted messages to consumers in these particular segments. Another area, and this actually ties in with your homework or your assignment 3, is PRISM. And looking at regional influences, PRISM is an example of where you actually take a lot of different pieces of information and you cluster it together in order to gain stronger insights. If we look at regional influences in terms of the Pacific Northwest compared to consumers who reside in Southern California, there would definitely be different influences in terms of lifestyle, activities, clothes, colors. When you look at different ethnic groups in Southern California, you'd find a strong Hispanic population. So understanding how there's different regional differences, and if you've ever lived or explored or traveled outside of the Pacific Northwest, you would certainly understand what this speaks to.